Hi, Simon here. I'm a landscape painter from New Zealand. Thanks for coming and checking out my channel. Today I've just edited up this video, which is one that's been sitting on my camera for a couple of years probably. It's a painting of a harbour scene, and it's from a place called Purau, which is in the Lyttelton harbour area near Christchurch, New Zealand. And I believe the harbour is an extinct volcano. That's my understanding anyway. I might be wrong about that, but pretty sure that's the case. So so we're sketching out a scene. I always enjoyed the sketching out part, and I quite like the look of the rough sketched image. Kind of gives you an idea where you're heading, of course, but it's quite fun just putting the paint on with a brush like that. Sometimes you go out and you do a sketch and you just miss it completely. You're off with your drawing. You might put things in the wrong place. Your size and placement isn't correct. Your composition isn't strong enough because of that, so you have to wipe something off. Quite often you'll see me mix another colour and re-sketch over the top of a previous sketch with a different colour, and I'll follow that, roughly follow that when I do the painting. This is one of those paintings I did in the summer, and we're actually looking towards the light. So, and I believe that in this painting the light changes quite a lot. Originally, when I first start the painting, it's over on my right hand side, and then by the time I'm getting into doing the water and the boats near the end of the painting, the light is directly in front of me. And this painting actually has quite a lot of struggle in it, and you can see me struggling trying to get this painting finished near the end. There's a few parts I wipe off and redo, or scrape off and redo, and that's actually part of the process. You have to kind of embrace that. There's no point in putting heaps and heaps of paint down on top of an area of the painting you're not happy with, unless you're going for a really thick finish in your painting. It becomes very soupy. In actual fact, I do put quite a lot of thick paint on this painting. I don't struggle with it too much, but you will see me change the water quite a bit later on, because I've painted it on fairly heavy in the beginning, and that's how it looked to me, and I felt that it was lacking subtlety. Just trying to establish the shadow colours on the background hills now. Before they move too much, you always feel a little bit of pressure when you're outside to try and establish the areas of shadow. You have to try and fix them so they don't move, because otherwise you're really chasing a moving target all the time, and the decisions that you make now aren't going to apply in half an hour's time, because everything's changed. And it's quite surprising. I didn't realise probably how much things do change over the period of half an hour or even an hour. And it's not uncommon for me to paint outside for 3 hours or 3.5 hours anyway. And you have to really try and establish those shadow areas to do that, and try and get an idea of what the light looks like on the ground plane and on the mountains in the background. Try and get that consistency of the light in relation to the tone of the sky, which is very tricky to actually do. And I still get it wrong sometimes. Some days I'll do a painting and I come back and I think that the ground just doesn't look light enough for the light was there, or that was there, or the light that I have in the sky. You can see that I've gone into that sky, and I've actually I'm using maybe some ultramarine blue up in the top of the sky, perhaps even a touch of red in that ultramarine blue, and there's probably some phthalo blue down lower down on the sky, which is an extremely strong colour, and it tends to go green if you're not careful. If you put a touch of yellow with it, it goes green very quickly. But I'm just trying to get that sky in and get the canvas covered so I can see what to do next, really. I believe that in laying in this water, initially I left quite a lot of the canvas white because that's how the water looked to me at the time, and it must have changed. You can see I'm just dry brushing across there to try and get the effect of what was going on. In my mind, I'm thinking I wanted something like this in the end, but I think I remember as I did that brush stroke, I thought, yeah, that's very well and good, but how am I going to achieve that? And because obviously I wasn't just going to leave the bare canvas, although I guess I could have, but I don't generally do that. But yeah, so I start laying the light in the background, and I end up getting this this light area in the water fairly thick. So I do scrape it off later, but you know, you're just really reacting to what's going on in front of you. You're kind of like a filter in a way. You take it on board through your eyes, and then you figure out what you're going to do, and then you use all the skill that you've amassed over the years to try and achieve that. So there's a lot of areas. I mean, I used to say that every time you put a brush stroke down on a painting, you've got an opportunity of making a mistake, and I think that's quite correct. You know, quite often we're lucky and we get it right, but it's very easy not to get it right. And you know, it's not uncommon for me to go back to my truck with my tail between my legs after being beaten up pretty badly by a painting that hasn't gone well. And that's part of the process. You know, when you paint outside like I do, you know, you can have failures. That's for sure. There's another view of the harbour I'm in. It's a beautiful harbour. I'm not sure if that photo was taken the same day or whether I went back out there and took some photos another time, but unfortunately I didn't get a really nice photo of this image I'm painting. I did get a photo, but it was out of focus. Unfortunately, I photographed it with my video camera that I was still kind of learning how to use, and I didn't have it focused correctly, so it was no good. I couldn't use it in the video. But I've put a few other images in this video of that area, the harbour. There's one of a yacht sailing in front of a landmass, and that's on the other side of the harbour, on the Lyttelton side, looking over towards kind of where I am now in a way. The Diamond Harbour side where I am painting in Purau is it's another world really. It's about a 45-minute drive from Christchurch. Windy little road, and but when you get over there, it's just beautiful. It's quiet, and you know, as you can see, it's usually very sunny or hot, and not necessarily windy. And there's lovely boats and beautiful water around, so it's a lovely spot to go for a picnic or a day trip, and beautiful spot to paint. Just reacting again to the things I'm seeing and trying to maybe break up some of those big blocks of colour a little bit. Obviously there was some sort of light areas in there that I could see, but yeah, as I say, this was filmed 2 years ago probably, so my recollection of doing the painting, I do remember the struggle, and I do remember feeling fairly tired when I was finished, and I felt that I hadn't really done that well. I felt like I'd done a video that really demonstrated my lack of ability because I felt pretty beaten up. I felt like I overpainted some areas. Sometimes you overpaint an area in a painting and you don't make it better than it was before. And, I believe it's been said that a painting's never finished, it's just abandoned. And I didn't abandon this. I got it to a place where I was happy with it, but it certainly wasn't an easy painting to do. The last hour was fairly difficult. So, probably just because I was tired. I think it was David LaFell, the artist, who said, a painting's finished when you get hungry. And I thought that was good. That was a good way of looking at it, really, So, yeah, if you get too hungry, you can abandon your painting and go home, I guess. Just trying to paint that foreground. It's an island, that foreground area that I'm painting there, mid-ground really. I believe it was a prison camp during the Second World War, or a quarantine island, one or the other. And it's still got some old buildings and stuff on it. We went through a tour through there a few years ago when our children were young. Took the kids over there for a look around. Here's another view, and this was obviously a different time of day. I'm not sure if that photo was taken on the same trip or not. And I think this is a stage where I may be starting to go wrong, because I think I'm chasing the light here. And I suspect when I put that light under that island in the first instance, that's how it was. So I've removed a lot of that white. I was thinking it was very bright. I'm not sure looking back at it now, it looked okay, but I don't know. At the time, I decided it wasn't up to my standard. I wasn't happy with it. So I scraped it back and I started to try and apply some subtle light with a palette knife, just trying to let the paint just come off the bottom edge of that blade, and almost like dry brush techniques. And you're always conscious when you do those little dabs of white that you don't go too far, or have them all spaced evenly, or overdo it, doing too many. It looks like I've caught a sandfly in the sky, which happens quite regularly when you're outside painting. You do create quite a few sandfly traps, that's for sure. And usually what I do is I pick them off with a really sharp palette knife when the painting's finished. I don't think they survive. They get pretty clogged up with paint. They probably couldn't fly again, things like that. This boat that I'm putting in now is a silhouetted nearly. The light is directly above it, and I feel like I put it in too dark, and I do change that. In fact, there's 3 boats in there I put quite dark, and I think at the time I felt that my colour wasn't quite correct, but like I say, I was getting tired, and I wasn't making the best decisions at this part of the painting. But I persevered because I'm stubborn, and sometimes we have to work our way through things, and I think the end result of the painting is quite nice. Um, but yeah, at this stage, you know, it could be argued that they're not too dark, but I think they are a little bit dark for what I was seeing at the time. I suspect I may have scraped them off and done them again. I don't think I show you that in the video, but I've certainly gone over them with a slightly lighter colour. And we're coming to the end of this video, this painting, and I ended up with quite a nice painting. I know, looking at it now, there's probably a couple of things I would change. I feel a little bit like the island on the right hand side has a very sharp and hard edge at the bottom of it, at the very front. It bugs me a wee bit. I think I would have changed that. In fact, I've still got this painting stored away somewhere, so I may get it out and make a couple of changes to it. But essentially, looking at the painting on the video, I feel like the edge on that island it looks a little bit stuck on. And this is one of the things with edge quality. One of the biggest telltale signs of a poor edge is something that it looks more like a mosaic, like something that's been stuck onto the canvas rather than something that's part of the canvas. And so that would be a criticism of this painting that I've done here, that the right hand side right near the edge of the canvas is pretty good. The island looks like it melts into the water beautifully, but a little bit further on, I feel like it's a wee bit harsh. But then again, and there's the finished painting now, and I think it's come out fairly well. If you like this sort of content, feel free to subscribe and give my video a like, and you can see my work at simonkramer.art. Thanks again for watching.